Welcome back to another episode, and please help me introduce my guest, or in some cases, welcome her back into the fold in this crazy universe we're all in. Miss Melissa Beck, how are we doing?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm sure you're glad I didn't say Howard.
No, you can say, listen, um,
No, I see
I'm
the
Shorty,
memes.
I'm
I
Shorty and
wanna-
Mercy's daughter. It's okay. I'm allowed to be Melissa Howard. It's just that I'm very particular about following the proper formats. And if a woman is married and she's taken her husband's name, it should be my name and then N-E-E Howard. But, listen, I'm just a stickler, but I'm used to it too, because I've been on the D list for a very long time, and they've never gotten my name right. They've never gotten my height right. They never gotten where I live right. Nothing's ever right, which I kind of like, so it's fine.
Yeah. You gotta love that one meme though. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about on Twitter when it was Bart Simpson drawing Melissa Beck, Melissa Beck, Melissa Beck.
Oh, I loved that one. It said, I will respect Melissa Beck's husband,
Oh,
which was
right.
like a really nice compliment. So I was like, oh, thank you, because, in early 2000s, I didn't have a dental plan. I got my hair cut at like Super Savers. So, it's been a little bit of a glow up.
Yeah, I always ask my guests, those that are now resurfacing, what it was like now having the added press and social media, something that maybe didn't exist back when you were on your original show. How has that been for you adjusting to it now?
That is a really good question. I have to tell you, when the producers first approached us about availability and interest in this show, I've been asked to go on several challenges or whatever, but I don't do them, not because I'm, opposed to getting paid by being on TV, but I'm not an athletic person. I'm not jumping off of buildings and doing whatever. Also, my teeth are really expensive. Like, what if one broke? But also, another reason why you don't just go willy-nilly on television is because social media is real. And we had the added safety benefit, having gone on the show originally many, many moons ago, like a really long time ago.
Yeah.
There wasn't Twitter. There wasn't like real-time conversation about what you were seeing. So if you wanted to get information, if you wanted to see what people were saying about you, you had to make an effort to log in to a message board dedicated to talking about people on the show. And if you did that, you had only yourself to blame if you had your feelings hurt. These days now, it's like the tweets are I call the tweets the streets. The streets is wild. Like, they're going to let you know how they feel about you. And you had mentioned in our little pre-review when you were discussing, doing this episode, you were like, yeah, they said you look like a school teacher in your black turtleneck. Hence, thank you for paying homage in your black turtleneck.
I showed up with my uniform on, so.
I love that. I think listen, I showed up in an Incendiary New York shirt because, let me take a moment to shout them out. Shout out to Long Island Hardcore. So an Incendiary has someone Asian in it. An Asian person in a hardcore band I also respect and I rock with. So anyway, I would have worn my turtleneck, but also I'm getting roasted for it. So I thank you for wearing yours. Yeah, I feel
My
like
pleasure.
that was a nice piece of solidarity. Thank you.
I'm glad I could be of service. Oh, yeah. So you were talking about being, getting roasted, teacher, social media.
Yes. So part of my hesitation in going back onto the show, any show for that matter, is that, people have access to you in ways that they didn't have access to you before. And it's just like Twitter might as well be your front porch. Like, people are going to let you know how they feel about you. And if you are a person that lives a relatively private life, that can be scary. There's some kind of, trepidation in that. But I love Twitter. Twitter's kind of like my medium. I love it. I think it's fun, and it requires like kind of a wordsmith way of communicating. So I personally love it. If it was up to me, I would only do tweets. I wouldn't even do no Instagram, because Instagram is pictures. I don't really like pictures.
It's kind of funny how Twitter and Instagram differ from each other. Twitter is kind of like the transparent capital of the world when it comes to social media, because that's like what you're really thinking, and then Instagram is like what you want people to think you're doing or thinking. I feel, but
Yes, there are two. You know, it's like you on your LinkedIn, on your LinkedIn you're in your turtleneck.
oh yeah, 100%.
On your Instagram, you don't have a shirt on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see the value in the different services, but I also feel like for me, I try to use both platforms in as authentic a way as possible. So you're going to get me the way that I want to share me. And so that was very scary going into homecoming, because part of why I became so private after my original showing was that I realized, oh, I really thought I wanted to be famous. And I was like, I don't think I like being famous.
What maybe about not being famous didn't you like?
What do you mean?
Like, what maybe caused you to step away, I guess, from the public eye? Like, what scared you about it?
You know what? I first went on the show, I'll be honest. And I say this to anybody that asks me about Real World is, you know, how'd you get on the show? Do you like the show? A lot of times, you know, people that go on reality shows, there's this sense of like, for some reason saying that you didn't want to be on the show necessarily, but I feel like that's silly. Like, but you were on it. Why are we pretending we didn't want to be on it? I wanted to be on Real World. I loved Real World. I am a person that grew up with MTV in my household as the barometer of what was going on in the world. So back in the day, MTV was the channel. And I watched Real World religiously. And yeah, I still to this day think that it is an important piece of not just pop culture, just American culture. So I wanted to be on it. I understood what going on it would mean, like in terms of the world is going to see you. What I didn't get was the permanence of that. So I didn't understand that, wow, I'm going to be 22-year-old Melissa from the Real World for a really long time if I do this. And so coming off of the show, I kind of had a weird duality. So I was Melissa from the Real World and I was Melissa Howard, trying to figure out how to navigate being Melissa from the Real World. So I had to kind of compartmentalize my life. So it was a private life and then a front-facing life. And I could be in my private life, minding my business, buying tampons, going to the dentist, doing whatever it is that I do in my private life. And someone in the outside world would then say, oh, you're Melissa from the Real World. So now I have to kind of zip into being Melissa from the Real World, which isn't necessarily bad, because I think that you have to have a level of respect for like how and why people know you. I understand that people love the show. Like the show was valuable and important to people, and it was valuable and important to me. And I want to respect that. And in a way, I kind of belong to the world in that way.
Yeah.
But like when I'm me, minding my business, doing my thing, I like to just be me, minding my business, doing my thing. But I also get that Melissa from the Real World is a thing, and she was a good thing. It was a good thing. It was a cool thing that happened in my life, but I didn't want to be that forever. And I am her forever, but still.
But there was like no specific event that occurred that maybe wanted you to step away? Like did you experience any, like maybe if you're going for like a job and something comes up where you're like, I recognize you were on that show, thanks, keep moving.
Oh yeah,
anything like that?
Yeah, there's no going for a job. There's no going for a job. Like,
yeah.
Like really think about it. What job could I have gotten coming fresh off of the Real World? Like your choices after being on the Real World are to continue to do television. Because what am I going to do? Go back to Florida and work at a law firm doing nursing home litigation? Because that's what I was doing beforehand, which isn't bad. But also like it's like this weird thing where you feel like you have to do something with the opportunity. So there was I think maybe like a 6-year stretch after the show where I was in LA and I was going on auditions and I did stand up briefly. What?
I could see that.
Oh, I hope you didn't.
Really? Really? You strike me like you could, come up with some good jokes.
Oh yeah, I wrote the shit out some jokes. Oops, is this a show where we can cuss?
Go ahead. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
You have free reign to do so. No, you're fine. Go ahead.
No, I had some jokes. I had some good jokes. I was killing it. I had a whole series of jokes about jackass versus black ass. I was like, black people ain't doing no jackass. Anyway, it was a whole thing, and I set it up. Whatever, yeah. It was good. It was all MTV specific comedy. Blah blah blah. It was good while it was good, but then also like inside my body, there was like a level of anxiety that I could not handle. And I was like, I don't think it's normal for your body to feel like this all the time. I don't think it's normal for your body to feel like it's literally melting from the inside out. This can't be normal. Is this anxiety? Am I like anxious? Is this happening? So like, I had to put my like health first. But it was a good run. I had a great time in LA when I was there. I really, truly enjoyed all of the opportunities that came my way as a result of being on the Real World. But I also like, there was still always a part of me inside that was like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? I don't know. Maybe you've interviewed a lot of Real World people. I'm sure that you've heard this sentiment over and over.
100%. I mean, I deal very closely with like the same situations, and I think like it's a recurring thing. Maybe not in all cases, but after a while, people appreciate being unknown after being in front of public eye for so long. Like, you almost appreciate like quietness and peace, once you're eventually gone from it. But did those opportunities, because I know this was a big question, everybody wanted me to ask you about the Chelsea Handler thing. Did that come through the Real World, or how was that originally?
I actually auditioned to be on, Chelsea Handler and I were on the same show. It was called Girls Behaving Badly. And at the time, they were wanting to do an all-girl comedy show in the style of, a prank show. And I had auditioned, you had to come in with a few of your own bits. And I auditioned and booked it, which was crazy because, like you go in, I'll tell you how it really goes. You go in as a person from the real world, and as weird as it is, as popular as that show is, you would think that would be a foot in the door, but it's actually not. Like,
oh no, acting and reality TV don't go hand in hand. Yeah.
Right. So like, there's kind of like this weird obstacle that you've created for yourself where you have visibility, you have like a weird notoriety, but you're not taken seriously for the things you want to do. I mean, listen, there have been people in this franchise that have done great, and I'm like so proud of them, and I'm rooting for everybody on Real World who goes on to take this to the top. Like that Jamie Chung, go ahead, girl. That Miz, go ahead, boy. I like get so proud of people that have been able to take this opportunity and either reinvent completely to where nobody on a red carpet has asked them about no damn Real World, or where they're like, yeah, Real World was a part of my thing. Real World is what got me here. I like totally love and respect that. And like, it's hard to explain to other people that it's such a weird, insular little group to be in, but like, we are a weird little family. And although I'm not connected to all of them in those ways, I'm like proud of them when I see them going on and like, hopping into the machine and monetizing it for themselves. Because there's also a piece of it where, we weren't given opportunities like the Jersey Shore people. We weren't the Hills. For some reason, that didn't happen, even though Jersey Shore is just
the same thing, essentially.
Real World, but Italians. Like, like...
It's true. It's true.
So like every time I look at Snicky, I'm like, man, girl, I'm proud of you. I don't know why. I'm not a multimillionaire, but I'm proud of you. So yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it's hard to talk about the aftermath of the show without sounding weird and bitter, and I'm not at all. It just, after 6 years in the grind of, we love you, you're so funny, you're so cute, but you're you. You're just like, okay, well.
And this is the acting you're talking about?
I went out for a lot of, listen, I'm no actor. The only person I know how to act like is damn Melissa Beck. So, you know, I went out for like Taco Bell commercials and JCPenney commercials. And I was trying to get like national commercial money. You know, like I wanted to be, dude, you're getting a Dell. There was this computer company called Dell.
Oh, the computer. Okay, yes, Dell, the computer. Okay, gotcha.
Wow. There was a computer company called Dell, and there was this like their commercial, the campaign for their commercial was, dude, you're getting a Dell, and it was a big deal to get a Dell laptop. Anyway, the guy that booked that, you know what, you should interview him. Actually, I would love to hear his take on what his fame did to his life, because he was the dude, you're getting a Dell guy. That's kind of like what it's like to be on reality TV, is that you're forever this one random person, but like forever, but he got paid. See, that's the difference.
Yeah. So what do you think about how reality TV's evolved? You know, I was talking about it with the LA cast. We talk about how conversations that happened back when you guys were doing your thing aren't taking place these days. We're not seeing real conversations, people from different walks of life. We're kind of seeing, and I use this analogy, we're seeing on reality TV now, it's almost like it's taken on a form of social media, but in a artificial conversation setting. Like, we don't talk about like real problems, you know? What is like your thoughts maybe on how reality TV's evolved?
I think that reality TV as a genre has become strictly entertainment. So like if you want reality TV old school, you need to go fire up a documentary, right? Because they're not the same. If you want to watch a reality TV show like the Housewives franchise, like my personal favorite, I love Married at First Sight. I love anything ridiculous over the top. I like it. I like, what's that one on Netflix? The Circle.
The Circle.
I love The Circle. Where they're like, The Circle actually is one of the first reality shows that's about how you present on social media. So like you're basically talking to either a real person or a troll. I love that. So like I get it. And I'm a person that enjoys reality TV despite having gone on it and kind of like understanding what goes on behind the scenes. I genuinely love it. I'll be the first girl. Vanderpump Rules, that was my shit. Vanderpump Rules was my shit when they were still poor, and then they became real famous people. And it wasn't interesting anymore. So yeah, you know, I dabble in it. I love it. I watch it. Would I be on it again?
Well, actually, technically, you are on it again. Just wanted to preface.
I am on it again, but this is a limited run. It's how many episodes did they tell you it's going to be?
I haven't been told anything.
Oh, well then we're in the same boat then, because I don't know nothing either. Okay.
Well, this boat's about to sink. So how did this recoming about come to be? Like when you're pitched this idea of this homecoming, how straightforward was your decision, and maybe what were some obstacles that led you to making the decision to come back?
I actually was very excited when Paramount announced Real World Homecoming New York, because like I said, I watched the show, I love the show. And you know, Norman Corpy, Heather B, Eric, Becky Blasband, like I know who those people are in my mind, you know, like they become friends in your head, and I watched that show. So I was very curious to see who these people would become. I thought the premise of the show was fantastic. But you have to think about it as the first Real World New York, if they had a homecoming, it's really the only one that's the true homecoming, because they were the original first guinea pigs with this concept. So like once you start branching out and doing it 2 and 3 times, like they did, you know, LA and New Orleans, like we had the opportunity to watch it firsthand to then understand what it was going to be to go into it. And when I watched it, I really enjoyed Real World Homecoming New York. I thought it was a really nice walk down memory lane. I thought it was a really interesting reflection on, you know, who people become after we've seen who they were as young people. I thought it was great. For some reason in my mind, I don't know why. I mean, Kelly calls me an oracle. I don't know why, but I just felt like they're going to call us. And there was no reason for me to think that, but I was like, I got to get my mind right. I got to get my mind right for if they call us, and start thinking about what it would mean for me to do this. If they were like, do you guys want to do this? And I'm not even kidding you. 4 or 5 months later, I got a phone call from a number I never got before. And it was just like, hi. It was them calling, the MTV people. And they're like, your name's been put in the hat to be put on a homecoming show, this, that, and the other. And I was like, wow. Because why would you go all the way to episode 9 or season 9,
2 to 9 is a big jump.
It's a big jump, but I also understand why it had to be that way. Well, we were told that it was that way because they tried to tell us that it was because I'm not going to get you in trouble.
No. I'm just making a face because in my mind I'm like, I don't think that's necessarily the actual truth, but go ahead.
Wait, what do you think is the actual truth?
I just think they couldn't get all the other seasons to co-sign, and that's why they got you guys. But that's just me being realistic. Not that people wouldn't want to see you guys, but to say that like we like you guys so much, we're just gonna skip over 7 seasons. No, but
so when they called me and said that, I said, who said no?
Well, then you and I are on the same page then.
Yeah, 100%. And so, but it's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Listen, everybody that's on this show is now in their 50s. Like, we're old.
Right.
Like, I'm an old lady. When we hang up here, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to do the dishes. I'm going to pour myself a cup of coffee. I'm going to fold some laundry. I'm going to watch a show about people getting murdered. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to put on some Tiger Balm. Like, I'm an old person. So, like, why would I be watchable television is my first question. And then if I was watchable television, like, what do I really have to talk about or say or offer to the world now as my 45-year-old boring self? Like, today I spent the whole day at Sherwin-Williams picking out exterior house paint. I'm not a fun person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, they said, come back, girl. And I was like, But part of coming back is like kind of having a level of respect for the other 6 parties who are also entertaining this idea. And they established early on that if they don't get all 7, there's no show. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I was told.
I believe that part. I believe, because I just think if they can't get at least 7, they wouldn't do it. LA had 2 opt-outs, but luckily they had replacements, so they were able to kind of, fill in the gaps a little bit. So I do believe that. But
in hindsight, though, I think that they could have still done the show if I would have said no. It's fine. It would have been fine.
I don't know about that.
No, listen, there are ways around it.
So are you insinuating you almost didn't do it?
It took me a very long time to decide to do it, yes. It took me a very long time. And at the end of the day, it boiled down to, who am I to ruin this opportunity for other people? Who am I to... I also felt like if there is an interest in this, in that sense, I kind of belong to the world in that way. And if I'm going to do it, I need to get my mind right, and I need to participate in a way that is asked of me, and I need to respect the process of going on there. And so there was a lot in the decision. Listen, when the show is done and wrapped and it goes off the air and Paramount doesn't know who I am anymore and they take my little blue checks away, I'm going to be okay because I enjoy my private life. But now that we're in it, we're on the cusp of it coming out, I feel like my best bet is to embrace it, have fun with it, which I have been. If you've been reading my tweets, listen, I'm having a great time walking down memory lane with the people who this show matters to. And I do feel like it's going to be a nice little, piece of closure.
Right. Which I feel like that should be the ultimate goal, right? For people coming back to this is closure. But where do you feel like your headspace is at mentally now, having obviously gotten done doing it versus how maybe when you came off the show back then?
Oh, so 2022 versus 2000?
Yeah, like where's like your, I guess, mental health space at in that regard? because it's definitely a different process, I would say, now, because everybody knows what like the concept of the show is, versus back then you're young, naive, you're like, this seems normal.
That is a really well. First, I have to give you the background. I'm not an okay person. I'm a little nuts. I'm a little weird, for sure. You know what? I'll put it to you like this. In year 2000, I was a 22-year-old who really, really wanted to be on the show. And so I was at the mercy of the people who had the power to put me there. And in year 2022, I'm a 44-year-old being asked to come back. So the dynamic has changed.
Right.
My mental health space, after I got off the show initially, when I was young, I was pumped. I was so excited. I remember the trailer came out. I was walking down Sunset Boulevard. Someone immediately recognized me. And I was like, hold on, am I an actual famous person? I loved it. I thought it was awesome. And then the show started and it just kept going and going. And every day there was more pieces of me. And I was watching me for the first time because, it's like, well, we're both podcasters. So you know how it's gross sometimes when you're editing your show and you're like, oh, why'd I say that? Why does my voice do that?
Yes.
And you're like so grossed out by yourself.
Right.
So imagine that exponentially worse week to week, watching yourself be a nutbag on national television and then being like, I'm going to be this person for a really long time. Holy crap. But also, I have to be this person because I need to pay my bills. Oh no. So I kind of had to like figure out how to move in that space. And I did okay. I did okay for the first like 2 or 3 years. Then, year 4, year 5, year 6. And I was like, I'm getting older and weirder. And I feel like I need to address this anxiety that I'm having about being out in the world and people knowing who I am. Like that was kind of creepy. But now I have a support system. I have my husband, I have my kids, I have my house, I have my private life, and I don't be going outside. It's a pandemic. I don't be outside. I don't do that. Yeah. I stay in my masks were the best thing that ever happened to me. I love a mask. I love staying in the house. I love a lockdown. I love a vaccine. I just like to be in a house. So mentally where I'm at is, I have little mini spirals here and there because I don't like the unknown part of this, but I also feel like it'll be well received. I also am my own person. I have my own voice. So the Twitter is going to always be there. If someone wants to pop up and say I did something, I can explain it.
You've got an army on there from what it looks like. God, this is like, I mean, I know Easter's a couple weeks away, but it's like you're like the second coming of Christ on that app. It's like
I doubt that. Listen, the 17 people that like my tweets, I want to say shout out to them. Thank you so much. I feel like, we're doing good work together. Thank you.
And I think like you just obviously talked about getting recognized a lot. I feel like Vegas, which was, I believe, 2 seasons after you guys, don't quote me on that, was like the season that gets all like the credit, like, oh, this is the one that really got in the press. But you guys, I think, were like the first season that was really when the show started getting mainstream. Did it feel like that when you came off the show?
Yes, it did. You know why? Because year 2000, when we came off the show, that was the first year that Survivor premiered.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And so reality TV as a genre started to be taken seriously. The only difference was, I think reality TV sort of took a weird turn because it added this competitive element. So at the time that my Real World was coming out, there was, like the Survivors, there was the Big Brothers, there was even like things like Fear Factor. Remember Joe Rogan on Fear Factor?
Yes.
There was an element there where it was like, oh, this is an actual real genre that we should take seriously. I think before then, we were kind of like, it felt like we were really a documentary. And then now it's like, this is entertainment, pure and simple, plain entertainment. So yeah, I think that the difference between my show and Vegas is Vegas was coming out into the world when reality TV was like taken seriously as a real formidable money-making machine. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys kind of blurred the lines, though, I feel like, because Vegas, if I'm being honest, was kind of like when the show started taking the direction of like, okay, this is like a party hookup scene, basically. Whereas like you guys, you had like your partying, obviously, but you still had like the real conversations and everything that went on. And now I feel like Jersey Shore kind of secretly just rode Vegas's coattails once that genre was established. That's what I genuinely feel like. I feel like when Jersey Shore first hit the scene, they were just like the Guido Vegas real world.
Are you allowed to say that?
Well, I'm Italian, so I think I get a pass.
Oh, you said I'm allowed. Okay.
And I also grew up in Jersey, so.
Oh, he said, oh yeah, that's my people. I can do that. Okay, good. I was just making sure. I didn't want you to get canceled.
Would I get canceled for that? I don't even know. Thanks for looking out, though.
Hey, listen, I live on Long Island. There's things you can't say.
Okay.
You can say whatever you want. It's fine.
Okay, cool.
No, yeah, I see. I definitely see what you're saying, and I think with New Orleans, we did have a few. Danny became the face of a major political moment. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was a very big deal at that time, and it was a huge position and responsibility for him as a 20-something-year-old to be put in. So like, yeah, I think that New Orleans kind of, because of that, and we had discussions on religion and we had discussions on racism. We had a cute little show. There was some fun stuff in there, but there was also some heavy discussion. I have not revisited the show. I didn't watch the show over to go back on Homecoming. I just went in there. I just raw dogged it. I just went in there like, yeah, give it to me. Show me what you want to show me. It was scary.
Why didn't you go back and rewatch it? Just like didn't like watching yourself back? Because that's a normal thing for a human. I feel like in some cases, my case at least, I don't watch myself back. But
I don't either. Listen, when we put out a podcast episode, I in the editing process, I can listen to it like 3 or 4 times, and after the 4th time, I'm like, just put it out. I don't care anymore because I can't hear my voice anymore. I can't do it. I couldn't rewatch the show. This is just pure vanity, dead ass. Girl, the fashions were wrong. The teeth was off. The hairstyle. Why did I have a high top fade? Why did I do that? I don't know. I felt like I had a lot of time with it. I sat with it for a long time. I was in it for like 6 or 7 years after the show, doing speaking engagements and being Melissa from the real world. There was no reason for me to revisit that. I know that girl. I love that girl. I love that little girl. She meant a lot to me, but also she's good. Thank you.
Well, I feel like this is right in your wheelhouse then, since you're talking to a fellow stranger. Why don't you tell people about your podcast?
Oh, thank you so much for this lovely opportunity to promote my work. As you know, start of the pandemic, I was a guest on this woman Amanda's podcast. Amanda had started a podcast called Your Mom Has a Podcast. And she, interestingly enough, had been reading my blog after the real world. I started a blog called Princess Melissa. And I kept my writing up for a long time. And so she had followed me. She saw me on the show, but she followed me mostly for my writing. Anyway, she wanted to interview me about my, how I feel about motherhood, this and that. And we just hit it off. But also, I had a lot of technical issues. As you can see, that's a thing that I do. It's a common
really?
theme.
I would have never guessed.
I had a lot of technical issues. So after we recorded our first episode, we had to do it again. She's like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm terrible. So we had to do it again. But then we just started chatting, I guess. I don't know. Am I a chatterbox? I don't know. I kind of get to talking to people. Yeah. And so it kind of just was like a fun conversation. And then as we were like figuring it out, I said, we should do another episode about this topic. We should do another episode about this topic. And then we kept talking. And then I was like, actually, she and I came to the conclusion that I think this show is about two strangers getting to know each other. And I was like, oh, weird. I have some kind of expertise in getting to know strangers. And then the lockdown happened. It wasn't really a lockdown because nobody locked down. If anybody did really lock down, we wouldn't still be in a pandemic. But don't get me started on COVID. The lockdown started, and I said, you know what? What's the worst that could happen? Let's do a podcast. And we did. I'm going into my 5th season. We have 80 episodes in the can. If you want to watch, if you want to listen to them, you can find them anywhere you listen to podcasts. So we are on Apple.
Do you guys chat with actual strangers, or are you two the imperfect strangers and you just talk about topics?
No, actually, it's the show is we get on a landline, and it's two women getting to know each other for the first time. So the tagline is kind of like it's us getting to know each other while everybody gets. If you like eavesdropping, this is the show for you, because it's two people getting to know each other. So in one of the first episodes, I discovered that she doesn't wash her chicken. We ended up having a whole episode about whether or not you should wash your chicken. Do you wash your chicken before you cook it?
No.
Interesting.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it seems like you guys carved a little bit of a niche, because I feel like these aren't things that like people, would normally just be like, you know what, I think I want to do a podcast about whether or not we wash our chicken. Let's go do that. So kudos to you making something out of,
nothing.
I guess you could say that. It's a niche. Well, you and I both know about this niche thing. We're both kind of around the same time when we started this podcasting thing. So
your podcast is about to experience his birthday, correct?
Yes, in 3 weeks exactly from tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Thank you. What are you getting my podcast for its birthday?
This interview.
Obviously. I'm not one to ask for presents. Okay. Anyways, TV aspirations. Did you have them? Did you not before trying out for Real World?
I was actually in journalism school.
Okay.
So my biggest hope when I was in my 20s was I wanted to write for this magazine called Sassy Magazine. I know it sounds so ridiculous, but Sassy Magazine back in my day was like the it girl magazine. It was bigger than the other ones. It was glossy. There was a section in it called Cute Band Alert. Chloe Sevigny was a major part of it before she was famous. Anyway, it was like a cool girl magazine, and I wanted to write for it really bad. So when I started college, I went to journalism school. I had no aspirations and really no business going on TV with the way that I had no dental plan. So, no.
Never the optimistic one, are you?
No, I had all my focus was on writing. And I actually, I went on to the show, and writing was not part of, who I was on the Real World. But after the show, I ended up writing a blog. I was an early blogger. I don't know if you know that. If you looked up my Wikipedia, I was an early blogger, and I had a blog called Princess Melissa. I would just do, slice of life commentary, but I also would do episode recaps of the one challenge that I did. And so that got a lot of attention, which has been really weird, because now that I'm on social media publicly and people are able to talk to me directly, they're like, Melissa, I read your blog. And it's just like blowing my mind that people read my blog. But they did. But this was before like Perez Hilton, Pink is the New Blog. It was before all that. I was just like blogging and not knowing that it was blogging.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm aging myself, but also kind of like pretending I'm an icon somehow. Or like some kind of visionary.
What was your process like though? How many maybe interviews did you go on?
Oh, to get on the show?
Yeah.
Oh wow. So back in the day, do you know what a VHS cassette is?
Yes.
Do you know what a camcorder is?
Yeah, I have an idea.
Wow. You've never seen a camcorder, or you never held a camcorder?
Well, no. But I've like this has been told before, so I have an idea.
Wow. Okay. So he's frantically under the table Google's camcorder. No. Back in the day, you used to watch the show, and the show would marathon. They would marathon the shit out of the show after the season finale. So I used to just sit there and watch the marathon, and at the end of the marathon, it would say, "Do you have what it takes to be on the real world?" And it would be this commercial to show you, like, if you do, it would tell you to send your tape in. So in order to make a tape, you had to get a camcorder and make a tape of yourself. So I remember I borrowed a camcorder from this girl at work. She was a really nice girl. She was the daughter of the lawyer for the firm that I worked for. I used to work in medical records, and so I had a low level medical records job. And so the daughter of the lawyer who owned the firm, she had everything. I was like, "Girl, can I borrow your camcorder?" I did. I sat on the couch in my little apartment that I shared with my literal high school, college best friend. I recorded it. I sent it in on the lawyer's dime. I stole it. I went in the mailroom and was like, "Can you send this off like one day?" So it was like a lot of money to send it one day because I was like right at the deadline. Sorry. You know what? I should pay that man back. I should pay that man back that $24.
Residuals.
Oh, wouldn't it be nice if we got residuals? Don't put us out there.
What a shame.
I sent a tape in, and then a person called me back in 2 days, which was really weird. I was like, "Hold on, you get thousands of tapes and you're calling me back?" I got a very big head about how great I was, and the interview process started. So it's 4 months of interview. So, and you get to, they call them rounds. So if you pass this round, you go to the next round. So then they talk to you some more, and then it's fill out this 20-page questionnaire. And, remember I told you my background was in writing. So I was like real flowery with it. And I was like making jokes on my little application. And then you go to another open call, like far away from you. So they really want to see like how bad you want it. So the next step was for me to go to Miami, where other people would be. And then I make it to Miami, blah, 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 whatever. The point is, it's a long interview process. And at the end, they tell you whether or not you get on the show. By the time I got to LA, to actual Buna Murray Productions, they told me that it was between that they really wanted me to be on Road Rules. That they really wanted me to be on Road Rules. And I was like, "That's cute, but I'm not going to be on Road Rules. But thank you for the opportunity." Because I don't, what do you mean? Exercising?
Yeah. Well, I think it worked out.
It worked out. And I think, too, that Danny had the same situation where they offered him Road Rules, and he was like, "Nah, I'm cool. Thanks." So,
yeah,
the stars aligned.
So you obviously seem like you weren't really into that kind of like stuff, but you did that one challenge, right? The Battle of the Sexes one.
Yes, I did. Well, so what had happened was, I had just booked Girls Behaving Badly with Chelsea Handler. Before Chelsea Handler was Chelsea Handler. She was big, but she got huge. Chelsea Handler is like an actual celebrity. Like Chelsea Handler does not know who I am. Chelsea, remember Chelsea? I was on the show with you. She'd be like, "I don't know who you are." She's like a real famous person. I wonder if now that I have a blue check, I could find out which. Nah, she don't know who I am. Anyway, I had just booked Girls Behaving Badly, and at the time, my manager was like, "The challenge is calling. Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Not really. I'm terrible. I can't swim. I would go for what, And back then, it was you got a little teeny bit of money, and that was the money unless you won the shit. And it was like not much money. So I was like, I don't really want to do that. And my manager at the time was like, "No, you're doing it because I know that you want to get away from being Melissa from the Real World, but you're kind of going to be with Melissa from the Real World regardless, whether or not you do this. So go on the show, and then you'll have 2 shows on the air at the same time." So it was kind of like a let's oversaturate the world with Melissa and make them love you. Manager talk.
Yeah.
So my manager had me go. And I went, and oddly enough, stayed until the end. But I didn't stay until the end because I had some kind of like, athletic prowess. I stayed until the end because they forgot to vote me off.
Do you have any memories from that show that like distinctly stick out when you just remember your time on that show?
Oh yeah. Listen, Jamaica was a wonderful time. I was high as hell. And we ain't allowed to say that. But Eric Neese, which I saw that you're going to be interviewing him tomorrow, so tell him I said hello.
For sure.
Eric Neese used to wake up dead serious at 5 a.m. And there was this floating raft out on the water. And he would go out there and be doing his Tai Chi shit. And I was like, I would watch from where I was and like, you know, do it too, but not in the water because I can't swim. I remember that there was a tree house that we used to all go in. Puck started going in the tree house. Puck used to take a boat and row it someplace far away off of the resort and come back with items. Like, what? Where did you get? He would trade. Red Stripe was, I think, one of the sponsors. So he would take cases of the beer that we got for free and row the boat to wherever he went and come back with like stuff that we weren't supposed to be having. And then we would all go in the treehouse. So I had a great time on that show. And the reason why they forgot to vote me off was because I was up in that treehouse. I wasn't arguing with people. So they, you know, when it came time to go into the inner circle or whatever the hell it was called back then, the gauntlet, what was it called?
Inner circle.
Yes. So when it came time to go in there and, you know, be like, well, this person said this about that person and this person failed at this mission. Everybody forgot about me and I made it all the way to the end.
Well, that was back during a time in which the challenges were like fun. You know what I mean? Like the rules weren't so strict. People were just enjoying their time there. The competitions weren't like pretty much a sport, which is what it's taken on now.
Hold on a second. Let's not get crazy. There was one where I had to be on a trapeze up in the sky on a scooter. That was hard. Yeah. There was one where I had to sit on a block of ice hella long. That was hard. Ooh, there was
that's also considered pretty fun though. Like those are the challenges that people enjoy to watch. The one with the ice.
That was a terrible time. Hypothermia is not awesome. I think I had frostbite on my buttocks for like 3 days. It was terrible. But you know what? I had a great time in Jamaica. I did. I really did. I had no obstacles. I had no, you know, I had no beef with nobody after I handed a beef. You know, I had a great time.
Was Puck's wedding on that show? It was.
Yes. And then after the challenge, babysat Puck's child one day. He was like, can you watch that kid? I was like, sure.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a weird insular world. You know what? I have fond memories. You know, well, you want to know something crazy?
I want to know something crazy.
Did you know Tokyo, we now call him Tokyo, was on Battle of the Sexes?
I did not.
He was... When we were filming Homecoming, I don't know if I'm going to say it. When we were filming Homecoming, you know, they say incoming message, and then they show us a montage of clips from back in the day.
Uh-huh.
And he was in a clip from Battle of the Sexes, and I was like, hold on a second. We were on a show together? That's how long ago the show was. And he was like, and when I had asked him about, I think he even forgot he was on the show. I think he even forgot he went on the challenge.
Wow.
But my cast is actually one of the only casts where everybody on it has gone on a challenge at least once.
I think people thought that you liked Tokyo back in the day on your original show. Liked?
Yeah. You know what? I wanted to be friends with him, and he was not having it. But you'll have to see how that resolves itself.
Obviously.
By watching this show that comes out April 20th, streaming only on Paramount Plus.
So how many times would you say where you were getting calls like to do challenges after, you know, your only one you did? Because they have like obviously now, you know, I'm sure that they've got all-star shows coming out now and stuff. They
they asked me to do that. Mm-hmm.
Really? Was those
they asked me to do a lot of challenges, and I always say no. They asked me to do the All Stars one. I got the parameters, and I was like, no. I offered generously. I said, for the amount of money that you would pay me to quarantine, and the guarantee for just showing up, I'll have that money, and you just put me in a studio, and I'll watch the challenge and make commentary. I offered that. They said no.
Now that would be actually a pretty neat idea that they should take up.
Have you seen my tweets?
You should, yeah, I mean.
Come on. You don't want me to do that?
Could you ever see yourself in like a host role, like sort of what I'm doing right now with you? Like if hypothetically, like you were to host like a reunion or something, could you see yourself?
I tried to do that too. Actually, on the prank show that I was on, I would be doing the pranks, and people would be in the middle of the prank, like, "Hold on, are you Melissa from the Railroad?" Even though I just told them I was Patty the florist. So I got put into a more hosting role for that show. Like I did all of the interstitials between packages. So it'd be like, coming up next on this Prankapalooza.
How did you enjoy doing that? Do you feel like that maybe catered to some of your strengths?
I love hosting. I love voiceover work. I did some of that for a little bit.
Oh, no way.
My voice is awesome, but I did some, I love anything that you can do in your pajamas and get a check. That's the job I want to do. So,
well, I mean, you're looking.
Podcasting is it.
I'm not to wrap myself out, but I am no joke in my turtleneck and my pajamas.
100%. That's why podcasting worked out really nicely, because it's just like, well, you're weird. This part is weird. Why do you do it with the camera on?
What?
I said, you're weird.
Well, we like niche.
Well, YouTube is your niche. You figured
Yes.
that out. And you monetize your videos and all that, huh?
Yep, I do.
Okay, so there's going to be like a little T-Mobile commercial on this one or something.
Yeah, T-Mobile sidekicks. Do you remember those?
Yes.
What
do I remember? You the one that don't know what a camcorder is. Of course I remember what a T-Mobile sidekick is.
Now, why'd you have to check me like that? We were off on a really good foot up until this point. Come on now. But yeah, I had a fun time chatting with you today. And I thank you for coming by. If you guys want to check out her podcast, Imperfect Strangers, I will plug that in the description. And if maybe you had questions that weren't talked about, rest assured, there will be a show coming out in a few weeks, and I'm sure your questions will be answered on that. So be sure to go check that out. Yeah, so if you guys want to go check that out on April the 20th, you'll see Melissa and the rest of her roommates for New Orleans homecoming. Melissa, thank you again, and had a great time chatting.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show, and congratulations again on the anniversary of your podcast. You should be proud.